Fight opening. The Mark of Death. The story begins at dusk on the high desert plains of Arizona Territory. 1876. A blood-red sun sinks behind the mesas, and Naya, a young Apache woman, runs for her life. Her people believe she betrayed them after she secretly warned a nearby settler family of a raid led by her brother. The warning saved lives but cost her everything: her family, her name, and her right to live. Stripped of honor, her tribe carved a mark of death into her shoulder with obsidian and cast her into the wasteland. Naya's heart is torn between guilt and survival. She doesn't curse her people. She prays for them, whispering to the wind to forgive her. She walks barefoot through thorns and sand, clutching a knife she can barely lift. When night falls, the desert turns cold and merciless. Coyotes howl. Her strength fades. At dawn, she collapses near the fence line of a ranch she's never seen. Turner Ranch, where a solitary man named Caleb Turner tends to a spread of half-wild horses and the ghosts of his past. Caleb, a former Union cavalry scout, still bears the scars of battle and of losing his wife Mary to fever 5 winters ago. He has sworn off the world. Yet when his dog barks at a shape by the creek, he grabs his rifle and goes to see, and finds the faint outline of a woman in torn buckskin. Half buried in mud, he thinks she's dead until she breathes. Coo. The shelter and the stair. Caleb carries her to his cabin. Her skin burns with fever. Her shoulder wound oozes. He doesn't recognize the tribal mark, but knows enough to see it was made by her own people. Against his better judgment, he nurses her. He boils water, grinds herbs, and speaks softly, even though she can't understand him. When Naya wakes, her first instinct is fear. She flinches, expecting to be struck. Caleb backs away, raising his hands, and mutters, "Ain't here to hurt you." His voice is gravel but gentle. She doesn't trust him. He doesn't trust himself for wanting to keep her safe. The silence between them stretches, broken only by wind and the sound of the kettle. As days pass, they communicate with gestures. She helps mend fences and feeds his horses. He learns her name by hearing her whisper it to herself. Naya. The way she says it sounds like a prayer. He says it once, testing the syllables, and she looks at him with startled eyes, as if he had spoken straight into her heart. Threed. The bond. Caleb begins to sense her sorrow, though he doesn't yet know the story behind the mark on her shoulder. One evening, while rain lashes against the windows, Naya finally speaks broken English, enough to tell him she is marked to die. Her people hunt her. Caleb, stunned, feels something shift inside him. Anger, pity, something fiercer. He remembers being told during the war that Apaches were savages. Now he sees only a woman who has known too much cruelty. He says quietly, "You stay here. No one touches you again." The next morning, a patrol of bounty riders comes through, claiming to be tracking a renegade Apache woman. Caleb lies, says he's seen nothing. Naya watches from inside, trembling, realizing he's risked his neck for her. When the men leave, she breaks down, not with words but with silent tears. Caleb doesn't reach for her. He simply stands nearby, letting her know she's safe. That night, she leaves food by his chair, a simple act. But to her, it's devotion. Their connection deepens through small rituals. Sharing coffee at sunrise, teaching each other words, laughter over his clumsy attempts at her language. The tension between them hums like heat over desert stone. Neither crosses the line, but both feel it, and it scares them. The reckoning. One evening, Caleb rides into town for supplies. When he returns, he sees smoke rising from his land. Apache hunters found Naya. She refuses to run this time. She stands before her pursuers, ready to accept death. Her brother Taza leads them, his face painted for vengeance. He calls her a traitor. Caleb gallops in, gun drawn, shouting her name. The moment freezes. The white man facing the Apaches, the sister facing her brother. Caleb doesn't threaten, he pleads. "She saved lives," he says. "She's no enemy." Taza sneers. "You speak for her?" Caleb answers, "Ain't no one else will." The confrontation turns brutal. Shots echo. Caleb takes an arrow to the arm but fires back to scatter the attackers. In the chaos, Taza spares his sister's life but vows she can never return. He leaves her weeping in the dust. Caleb staggers, bleeding, yet the first thing he asks is, "You hurt?" That night, under the glow of the hearth, she tends his wound. Their eyes meet. The dam between them breaks. She presses her forehead to his hand and whispers, "Why you saved me?" His answer is simple. "'Cause you made me remember I'm still alive." They share a trembling kiss and hesitant, tender, not lust, but recognition. Two souls that the world cast out finding home in each other's arms. The quiet after weeks pass. Word spreads that the rancher took in an Apache woman, and the local townsfolk whisper, some stop trading with him. Caleb doesn't care. He builds her a small hut beside the corral, but she chooses to sleep near him instead. They live quietly, tending the land, rebuilding trust with every dawn. One morning a storm rolls in. Lightning, wind, chaos. The roof threatens to tear apart and they work side by side to save the horses. Afterward, drenched and laughing, they stand in the rain. For the first time, Naya lifts her scarred shoulder to the sky. No more Mark, she says softly, letting the rain wash it clean. Caleb watches her and realizes that love isn't about saving. It's about standing beside. He touches her hand, and together they look east where the sun breaks through. The past isn't gone, but the future feels wide as the horizon. 6. Closing image years later, travelers passing through the valley speak of a rancher and his Apache wife who live peacefully with their horses. Some say she still sings to the wind at dusk. Songs of forgiveness, of a mark turned into a promise. The desert, once a place of death, blooms with wildflowers. The desert's mercy, it begins in early spring, when the high desert turns from bone dry to briefly alive. The rains have come, and with them the sound of thunder rolling across the mesas. Beneath one storm, Naya stumbles through the wilderness, not running now, but walking as if searching for a reason not to collapse. Her tribe's decree still hangs over her. Traitor. The mark carved into her shoulder burns like fire. But she is tired of hiding. At a bend in the river, she finds something strange. A single white horse caught in the reeds, leg tangled in barbed wire. She frees it, unaware that it belongs to Caleb Turner, whose ranch lies a few miles upstream. Caleb finds her leading the horse home, barefoot and drenched, lightning flashing behind her like a ghostly halo. He points his rifle first, instinct, but something in her eyes stops him. Not fear, not defiance, just exhaustion and dignity. You're hurt, he says. She only shakes her head, whispering, no more places to go. He doesn't answer, just nods toward the barn. Then you can stay until the rain passes. The shelter of silence. The next few days unfold like a truce between wounded creatures. Caleb gives her shelter in the hayloft, food left quietly on a crate and bandages for her shoulder. Naya says little. She doesn't speak English well, but she works hard, fixing fences, feeding livestock, moving with a grace that both unsettles and captivates him. Caleb's dog Boone takes to her first, then his horses, then against his will, Caleb himself. He watches her from the porch sometimes, brushing the white horse she saved. There's something sacred in how she moves. Not a survivor clinging to life, but a woman making peace with it. One night she hums a song in Apache, soft, haunting. Caleb listens from his chair, heart aching without knowing why. He remembers Mary, his late wife, and how her voice used to fill this same silence. For the first time in years, the quiet doesn't feel empty anymore. The story of the mark. A month passes. Naya still says she will leave when she's strong enough, but Caleb knows she's stalling. One evening, he finally asks about the scar on her shoulder. She hesitates, then unwraps the bandage, revealing the blackened wound, the shape of a handprint burned into flesh. My people say I gave warning, she murmurs. Said white soldiers were coming. They think I betray, but I tried to save children. Her voice breaks. Caleb sits quietly. He knows the cruelty of men, both soldiers and tribes, and he feels his heart crack wider than he thought it could. You did right, he says. She shakes her head. Right don't matter if no one remembers. He answers simply, I will. That small vow changes everything between them. The next morning he rides into town, trading his old rifle for paints, brushes, and blank cloth. He tells her, you can paint it. Tell your story your way. She doesn't understand at first. But when he shows her how to use color, reds for blood, blue for sky, ochre for earth, something in her soul awakens. Day by day, the barn walls fill with her life. Her tribe, the river, the betrayal, the mark, and the white horse in the rain. Her pain becomes art, and through it she starts to live again. Love that grows in quiet seasons change. Naya's hair grows long again. Caleb finds excuses to stay near her. repairing fences that don't need mending, bringing her coffee just to see her smile. She teaches him Apache words. He teaches her songs he half remembers from Tennessee. They laugh more often, though neither calls it love yet. One summer night during a festival in town, Caleb takes her with him despite the stares. The townsfolk whisper, "He's brought a savage woman." She hears the words but stands tall. When music begins, she doesn't know the steps, so Caleb shows her, one hand steady on her back, the other holding her calloused fingers. For a moment, the world fades. Her laughter breaks through the music, light and free. "You dance like the river," he says. "Wild and hard to follow," she teases. "Then hold on tighter." It's the first time he's touched someone with both tenderness and hope in years. Later that night, beneath the cottonwoods, he kisses her, slow, uncertain, reverent. She doesn't pull away. The mark on her shoulder presses against his chest, and for the first time, she doesn't hide it. She whispers, "You make me forget it's there." He answers, "Then maybe it's gone, V." The trial. Their peace is tested when soldiers arrive searching for an Apache fugitive said to be hiding on Turner land. Caleb lies at first, but one sergeant, recognizing Naya from a wanted poster, draws his gun. Caleb steps between them, unarmed, and says, "You'll have to shoot me first." The moment stretches like lightning before a storm. The sergeant lowers his weapon and says, "She ain't worth dying for." Caleb's answer is quiet but unshakable. "She is." The soldiers ride off, muttering. Naya, shaking, touches his cheek. "Why?" she whispers. He says, "No, 'cause you gave me back the part of me that still believes in mercy." 8-6. The promise months later, autumn colors the cottonwoods gold. They build a small shelter by the river, where she first found his horse. It's not marriage by law, but by heart. They exchange no vows except one. She takes his hand and places it over her scar. "You fight death for me," she says. "Now I fight life with you." They plant corn, raise foals, and live quietly. Every evening Naya paints the sunset on scraps of wood, always with two figures standing beneath a tree, one pale, one dark, holding hands against the wind. When Caleb grows older, his hair silver and his voice softer, he still tells her, "You're the best thing this land ever gave me." She answers in Apache, a phrase that means "you are my river," and when she dies, years later, he buries her beneath the cottonwoods, where the first rain once brought them together. On her grave, he carves the symbol she once feared, the mark of her tribe. But beneath it, he writes a single English word, "Loved Tadam." Closing image decades later, travelers crossing the valley still see the old barn painted with stories of an Apache woman who turned her pain into color, and of the man who gave her a home to heal. The river still runs past the cottonwoods, whispering in both languages, the winds and the hearts, a promise that love, once marked by death, can bloom into something eternal. As a fugitive and a ghost, the story opens in the dead of night. The desert is moonless, silent, and cruel. Naya, the Apache woman marked for death by her own tribe, hides among the rocks, clutching a knife slick with her own blood. Her people hunt her for treason. They believe she guided soldiers through sacred land. She didn't. She only led them away from the children's camp. It doesn't matter. Mercy is forgotten here. A gunshot cracks the silence. Naya stumbles, falls. The world fades. When she opens her eyes, it's daylight, and she's staring at a weathered ceiling, a man's voice murmuring, "Easy now. You're safe." That man is Caleb Turner, a widowed rancher who found her half dead by the riverbank. His face is rugged, tanned, his eyes like the land, and lonely, enduring. He speaks softly even when she doesn't answer. He gives her water, bread, silence, but she knows what men like him think of her kind. She keeps her knife close, cool. To outsiders, Caleb isn't a man of the town. They call him Ghost Turner. He fought in the Civil War, lost everything afterward, and came west to forget. He built his ranch on solitude, where no one demands or remembers. When Naya wakes again, she tries to leave. He stops her, saying only, "You won't last a mile." She doesn't argue. Instead, she works. He lets her, mending fences, fetching water, keeping busy to hide her trembling hands. Over days, an unspoken rhythm grows between them. He talks to his horses more than he talks to her, but when he does, his voice softens. He teaches her English words. She teaches him Apache ones. They share coffee by the fire, her first time tasting it. "Bitter," she says, making a face. He chuckles. So's life, he answers. There's a quiet, fragile peace in the way they begin to need each other without admitting it. 3. A love the world condemns as spring turns to summer. The world outside grows dangerous. Soldiers patrol the area, hunting Apache raiders. They don't care about guilt or innocence. Every native face is an enemy. Caleb hides Naya in his barn when patrols pass. One afternoon, a lieutenant named Harlan visits. He once served with Caleb and suspects something. "You been keeping company out here, Turner?" he asks. Caleb plays dumb. But Harlan notices a second plate on the table, a strand of long black hair caught on the chair. His smile turns cruel. "Careful, friend. The army don't look kindly on harboring savages." After he leaves, Caleb feels the walls closing in. He wants to send Naya away, but when he tells her, her eyes flash. Not with anger, but heartbreak. "You saved me," she says. "Now you throw me to die?" He grabs her wrist, voice breaking. "I'm trying to keep you alive, damn it." The silence afterward is unbearable. That night she packs to leave. He finds her by the corral, moonlight on her face, tears streaking dust down her cheeks. "If I go," she whispers, "you forget me." He steps closer, his voice rough as gravel. "Not in this life." He kisses her. Slow. Desperate. The kiss of a man who knows the world won't let them keep each other. When they part, she's trembling. Not from fear, but because she's never been held without pain before. 4. The betrayal days later, soldiers return, led by Lieutenant Harlan. They found Apache tracks leading toward the ranch. Naya hides in the root cellar as Caleb faces them on the porch. "Ain't nothing here but dust and ghosts," he says. But Boone, his dog, barks at the cellar door. The soldiers follow the sound. Caleb draws his gun. Chaos erupts. Harlan fires first. Caleb shoots back. The barn catches fire. Amid the smoke, Naya bursts from hiding, screaming his name. Harlan spots her and raises his rifle. Caleb throws himself between them. The bullet hits him in the chest. He falls to his knees. Naya grabs his revolver and fires once, and the shot echoes through the valley. Harlan collapses. The soldiers flee, leaving the ranch ablaze. Caleb's breath rattles. Naya cradles him, sobbing. "No," she pleads. "You fight," he smiles faintly. "Already did, darlin'." She presses her forehead to his. "You die for me." His voice is a whisper. "No. For us." He dies before sunrise, his blood staining her hands, his eyes still open toward the sky. V. The burial. Naya buries him by the cottonwoods near the creek, the same place he found her. She marks his grave with a stone, carving the Apache word for protector. The fire consumed the ranch. She's alone again, but no longer afraid. The soldiers call her a murderer now. Her people still call her traitor, but she calls herself something else. Loved. She stays near the grave for weeks, living off the land, whispering to the wind. Each night she lights a small fire so his spirit can find her. Sometimes she swears she feels his hand brush her hair when she sleeps. One dawn, riders appear on the horizon, Apache hunters. Her brother Taza among them. He rides forward, spear in hand, ready to finish what the tribe began. But when he sees Caleb's grave and the burned ranch, his expression falters. Naya kneels before him, offering her knife. "Kill me," she says. "But know this, and a white man died for me. He was braver than any I've known." Taza stares, silent. Then he drops the spear. "The wind remembers," he says softly. "You have paid." He turns his horse and rides away. Meng. The years of silence time passes. No one knows what becomes of her. Some say she vanished into the mountains, living among wild horses. Others say she became a spirit guarding the valley. But decades later, travelers still find flowers growing near that lone grave. Wild desert roses that bloom even in drought. They say if you stand there at dusk, you can hear a woman's voice singing, half Apache, half English, a lullaby to the man who gave his life to set her free. 6. Closing image. The final image returns to the wind sweeping across the valley, carrying both dust and song. Caleb's grave lies beneath a cottonwood tree, carved with words almost worn away by time. He fought back not with hate, but with love. Above it, a single feather flutters, black at the base, white at the tip, like two souls that met in defiance of the world and refused to let it win. Curse a land that doesn't forget. The story begins in the spring of 1878, in the dry heart of New Mexico. Caleb Turner, a rancher hardened by war and loneliness, rides the fence line after a storm. He finds strange tracks, bare feet, small, hurried. They lead to the creek, where a young Apache woman lies half-conscious, tangled in reeds and mud. Her name is Naya, though he won't learn it for days. She's thin, sunburned, her lips cracked. He carries her to his cabin, lays her on his bed, and pours water between her lips. When she stirs, she recoils at his touch. The mark burned into her shoulder, a symbol of exile, glows red against her skin. He doesn't ask who she is. He doesn't ask what she's running from. He just says, "You're safe here. For now." 2. 2 shadows under one roof days pass. She recovers slowly, eating little, speaking less. She avoids his eyes but studies him when he isn't looking. He moves with quiet purpose, fixing the roof, tending horses, boiling coffee at dawn. There's grief in the way he carries himself, and she recognizes it. Grief knows grief. One morning she helps gather firewood. He watches her from a distance, her long hair tied back with twine, her movements precise. She doesn't belong to this land, and yet she fits into it better than he ever did. That night thunder breaks again. She wakes screaming, dreams of her people hunting her, of being tied and branded for betrayal. Caleb rushes to her side, holding her shoulders until she calms. "You're here," he murmurs. "Ain't nobody gonna hurt you." When she looks at him, something in her gaze changes, a spark of trust. It's the first time she lets him touch her hand. The weight of the mark weeks pass, and words begin to bridge the silence. She tells him, in halting English, what happened. She warned a white settlement of an impending raid, hoping to stop bloodshed. Her brother led that raid. When it failed, her people turned on her, marking her for death. Caleb listens in silence. He doesn't say she was right or wrong, just that he understands what it means to lose your place in the world. "I fought for a flag," he says quietly, "and when it was over, there wasn't a soul left I knew." They begin to share chores, laughter, and something deeper, comfort in shared exile. She teaches him Apache words for things he thought he understood. Ta for 3, Kea for land, Ayo and Yinishni for I love you. She says the last one without realizing he understands. He freezes, then smiles and answers softly, "Reckon I love you too." Ofu. The threat returns. Peace doesn't last. One afternoon, Caleb rides into town for supplies. The blacksmith tells him there's a bounty on a renegade Apache woman, alive or dead. A scarred man named Wade Holler, a mercenary tracker, is already sniffing the trail. Caleb rides home faster than the wind. When he tells Naya, she doesn't panic, she only nods. "They find me, I die," she says calmly. "You help, you die too." He grabs her shoulders, his eyes fierce. "Then we die together." That night they pack what they can. Food, tools, his mare Dusty, her white horse Cinto. Before dawn, they set fire to his cabin. The flames light the desert like sunrise as they ride north, toward the Sierra Blanca mountains. "Ain't nothing to come back to," he says. She nods. "Then we go where sky ends." V. The journey of shadows, their flight across the desert becomes a journey of becoming. They travel at night, sleep by day, crossing lands both sacred and cursed. At first they are hunted by soldiers, bounty men, and ghosts of their pasts, but each day they survive draws them closer together. One night, while hiding in a canyon, they share a meal of roasted corn. Naya laughs at his attempt to speak her tongue. "You sound like Lost Coyote," she teases. He grins, touching her cheek. "Then you best teach me right, woman." Their laughter fades into something softer, the slow recognition that they've crossed not just land, but the distance between their souls. "Under starlight," she whispers. "No more running." He answers, "Only toward you." They make love that night, Not wild or hurried, but like two wanderers finding water after a lifetime of thirst. The next morning, she braids his hair. He ties a strand of hers into his hatband. Neither says the word forever, but both believe it. The price of freedom. They reach the mountains and find an abandoned trading post. With time, they rebuild it into a small homestead, planting corn, raising chickens, living off the river. They take new names, Cal and Anna Rivers. To the rare travelers who pass through, they are husband and wife, quiet folk who keep to themselves. Years go by. The scars fade, though never completely. Naya's mark remains, but she no longer hides it. When Cal touches it, he says, "This mark ain't shame, it's proof you lived." But the past doesn't stay buried. One spring, Wade Holler, the same tracker, finds them. Age hasn't softened him. He rides in with 3 men, demanding the bounty. Cal stands his ground, rifle in hand. "You'll have to take her over my dead body." Wade smirks. "Always figured it'd come to that." The fight is brutal and fast. Cal kills one man before a bullet strikes his side. Naya fires from the porch, hitting another. Wade lunges at her. She drives a knife into his throat. When the dust settles, she drops beside Cal, blood soaking his shirt. He looks up at her, breath shallow. "Ain't how I pictured growing old." She presses her forehead to his. "You don't die here." She stops the bleeding, tends him for days until fever breaks. He lives and barely, but the cost leaves him frail. From then on, she runs the homestead alone, protecting him as he once protected her. 7. The final years, decades later, the world changes. The wars fade, the towns grow. No one remembers the bounty or the crimes. Travelers speak of an old white man and an Apache woman living at the base of the Sierra Blanca, their home surrounded by wildflowers and strange peace. Caleb grows weak. His hands tremble when he holds hers. One evening, he tells her, "If I go first, don't stay sad too long." She shakes her head. We meet again, where sky ends. When he dies, she buries him beneath the juniper tree where they first built their home. She marks the grave, not with his name, but with 2 words in Apache, "Dane, my heart." She lives a few more years, alone but not lonely, painting his image on the canyon walls, teaching passing children how to sing in 2 languages. Then one spring, when the first rains come, she lies down by his grave and closes her eyes. They say the mountain wind that night carried 2 voices, one English, one Apache, laughing as it rose into the clouds. Bait. Closing image years later, a traveler passing through finds their homestead long abandoned, but carved into the stone hearth are the words, "Where the sky ends, we began." Above it hangs a single braid of silver and black hair, a love that left no grave untouched by grace, no life untouched by courage. How the tale begins. By the time this story opens, the frontier is already dying. The railroads carve the West, and stories of wild Apache raids have become something told around saloon fires. Yet in one hidden valley between the red cliffs of Arizona, people whisper of a place where the wind still sings, the Painted Valley, and of the 2 lovers who once defied death itself. The story begins in 1879, when Caleb Turner, a widowed rancher, discovers his water supply poisoned by a band of outlaws pretending to be soldiers. While checking his line, he finds Naya, an Apache woman, collapsed near his stream, her hands bound and her skin scorched by sun and rope. She had been taken prisoner by those same outlaws, accused of betraying her tribe to the army and marked for death. Caleb doesn't ask questions. He cuts her free and carries her to safety. For days she doesn't speak, but when fever grips her, she whispers words in Apache, words he doesn't know yet but will come to live by. The wind remembers what the world forgets. 2 wounds. That mirror Caleb and Naya are both scarred people, one by grief, the other by exile. He lost his wife and son years ago to fever. She lost her tribe and name to betrayal. The first part of their story is wordless. 2 broken souls sharing one quiet cabin. When she recovers, she helps him repair the corral, rebuild his well, and hunt coyotes that threaten the livestock. He watches the way she moves, graceful but guarded, as if she belongs to the land itself. She watches him too, a man of silence whose sadness makes him kind. The moment their bond changes happens one evening as she paints with clay pigments on the wall of his barn. A sunset of red and gold, like fire turned soft. Caleb asks what she's doing. She answers, making memory stay. He understands. She's fighting to exist where no one wanted her to. 3. The danger returns word spreads of a bounty on the Apache trader. The outlaws return, this time under the flag of law, saying they have authority from Fort Bowie to take her. Caleb knows better. He bars the door, tells her to hide, and faces the men alone. They burn the barn and wound him. She escapes through the smoke, dragging him with her across the ridge. They spend days hiding among the canyons, his wound festering, her hands raw from tending it. As he weakens, she sings to him in her tongue, the song her mother sang when she was a child. He doesn't know the words, but he feels them, the language of forgiveness. Under a full moon, he opens his eyes and murmurs, "I ain't afraid to die, long as you live." She answers fierce, "Then you live too, or I follow." The Painted Valley. They reach an untouched basin high in the mountains, a valley filled with wildflowers and red stone cliffs that shimmer at sunset. Naya calls it Twe-Wichi, the place where the earth bleeds beauty. Caleb calls it home. Here they build a small cabin by the stream and vanish from the world. Years pass. They plant corn, raise horses, and paint their lives on the rock walls. Not with words, but images, a handprint, a sun, 2 figures side by side. Their love becomes its own language, older than the hatred outside. Travelers sometimes pass through and tell of a strange sight. A white man and an Apache woman living like spirits in the cliffs, smiling but speaking little. Some think them ghosts, others saints. V. The storm and the oath. When the great drought of 1886 strikes, the valley begins to die. Caleb grows frail. Naya rides out for supplies, leaving him a carved feather, a symbol of promise. She reaches the town of Socorro, where soldiers still remember her name. They seize her. When they threaten to hang her as a traitor, she says only, "Let me write one word." They give her charcoal and paper. She writes Turner. The sheriff recognizes the name and the rancher who vanished years ago, and curiosity stays the execution. But when they ride to find the valley, they find no man alive. Caleb is gone, the cabin empty, the walls covered in paintings of wind, stars, and 2 hearts joined by a river. Naya kneels beside the hearth and whispers, "You waited." She stays there through the night and never rises again. As the legend spreads years later, railroad workers blasting through the canyons discover the site. They find no graves, only the painted walls, still bright, still alive. Among the images is one scene repeated over and over, a man and woman holding hands surrounded by spirals of wind. Some say the drawings glow at sunset as if lit from within. Locals begin calling the site Lover's Sanctuary, but among the Apache, it earns another name, Ndi Binahi, the wind that remembers. Mothers bring their children there to teach them that love is not shame, and mercy is not weakness. 7. The legacy a generation later, a historian named Sarah Turner, Caleb's granddaughter, finds mention of the legend in an old journal. She travels to Arizona to confirm it. When she stands in the valley, she finds her family name scratched faintly into one rock. Beside it, an Apache symbol meaning life everlasting. She realizes the story her family buried in shame was never a tragedy, but a truth too pure for its time. She writes their story down so it can never be erased again. In her final note, she records the words carved into the hearthstone. Love is the only thing the wind refuses to carry away. 8. Closing image. As the modern sun sets over the painted valley, the cliffs gleam crimson, and the wind sweeps gently through the canyon, not howling but singing. If one listens closely, 2 voices echo together, one rough and low, one soft and strong, whispering the same vow that began it all. We fought death. We found forever. The screen fades on the valley, eternal and unspoiled, a place where 2 hearts once marked for loss became a legend the land itself refused to forget.